Welcome back, everybody. We roll till 4 o'clock today. We are at Twin Peaks in Scottsdale. That's where you can find us. Come on out. Manuch is here. He'll sign autographs, take pictures, everything. He's that kind of guy.
I'll give you a quick Spanish lesson, too.
Yeah,
if you want me to.
Yeah, you can do that.
From Cabo San Lucas es muy importante, mi amigos.
Well, I'm glad Rick Horrow's coming on the show now, so I don't have to listen to Manuch give everybody a Spanish lesson. Rick Horrow, the sports professor. You can find him on X at Rick Horrow. Rick, welcome to the show, pal, as always. So my first question is, are you a guy that gets totally excited about the NFL schedule release, or is that just ho-hum to you?
Well, it's ho-hum because it's predictable. Why play the season? Because everybody always has an opinion about who's going to finish where, wins and losses. Everybody always talks about how the team gets screwed with their particular home games and away games. They all look for certain propensities. Here in Miami, we look for where and when do we play the Bills, in the tundra or in the sauna, and the same thing with the Patriots. And so it is kind of interesting, but listen, the NFL does a really good job of monetizing hope 365 days a year, and this is one of them.
I can imagine, Rick, the National Football League, they've got it down pat. They've got the signs down pat. I believe the Cowboys, Chiefs, and Eagles are playing with 99.9% of all the primetime games. Is that what I counted here as far as putting the top three right there in the front and center?
Well, I didn't count that many, and it might be very well that that's true. You got, the Bills and the Ravens are also, premier teams that will get a lot of spice at the end of the day. And there's some great storylines, the Lions emerging, the Commanders emerging, but same old in large respects.
I think the one thing that intrigues me is, and you being the sports professor that you are, as far as the advertising is concerned for those games, we've got, three, I feel, top-notch games, all divisional games on Christmas. How that they bank their marketing to the nth degree as far as pricing is concerned with those teams that are top-notch year in and year out, or is that just one of those things that, as they set the schedule, that's not even brought up?
Well, yeah, no, of course, the advertisers sign off on the deal, and there's a good faith understanding that there will be primary and primo teams, at least as far as the beginning of the season is concerned. You can't always guarantee a team is going to be performing well, especially in late December. But you do your best to separate the primary primo games and give them the primo benefits.
Rick Horrow's our guest on the Right Toyota guest line. Rick, one more question on the NFL. When do you believe, because you've been in the business a long time as well, when do you believe that the NFL figured out that they were the biggest dog on the ranch and they could pretty much own every other sport with the way now that they lay out everything?
Well, it's an easy answer, almost from day one. The real issue is, how do you make sure that the powers that be that have any leverage don't feel like you're overstepping? So, for example, the pay-per-view discussions about, can we actually have pay-per-view streaming games as playoff games? Well, they have one now. I think if they went further today, there would be much pushback by Congress and otherwise. Years ago, you wouldn't have even had a streaming pay-per-view game. Remember, there was a lot of conversation about Super Bowl, and would there ultimately be a time where you pay per view for Super Bowl? Well, that's not the case today. But at the end of the day, we are getting to the point where the NFL continues to push the envelope. You realize that there are games across from the 3 college football playoff games early in their cut from 12 in year 2. And so you thought maybe that would be left alone, but it's not.
Well, to your point there, Rick, it looks like ESPN ready to unveil that new streaming service, which is going to launch this fall, in reference to direct-to-consumer streaming. ESPN, they talk about they debut this fall. The tiers, Select, ESPN Plus, got pricing there, unlimited plan, access to linear channels, et cetera, et cetera. Does that enhance what you're talking about even more so?
Well, it gives people more choices, but it also clutters things up. And so a lot of it depends on, as usual, how do you keep the mega events separate so people can get choices of real games? And streaming also means you can tape them, but you really want to have access to the live appointment viewing, and that's what's being protected. At the end of the day, that's the most valuable asset that anybody has.
So all that being said, Rick, at what point can you see in the future that all NFL games, specific NFL games, will either be a pay-per-view or be paid for versus over regular TV? Or will that ever happen? Will the NFL ever allow that to happen?
No, I don't think it'll ever happen to the description that you're talking about, but it certainly will happen relative to more pay-per-view games with more opportunities. And I think people now are getting used to the fact that we're going to have a few. And, you know, when you have a few, then there'll be a few more, and then there'll be a few more. So I can't predict the percentages, but you can predict the movement.
Hey, take me quickly to college football, because the SEC and the Big Ten, they all had their big meeting with athletic directors. And once again, Rick, they're pushing again to expand the playoff picture, and they want to guarantee at least 4 SEC teams in and 4 Big Ten teams in. Is this going to come to fruition in your estimation, or will the other conferences have a chance to push back and not let it happen right away?
Oh, of course the conferences will have a chance to push back. You know, whether they're going to be successful off of the 4 and 4 as you described, who knows? It's the beginning of a pretty significant skirmish. And again, you know, if it becomes 14 teams, 16 teams, 16 is symmetrical. It's 4 more than we have today. So we'll have to see. And obviously, when you think about it, the 4 additional gives the SEC and the Big Ten a lot more opportunity to get those extra teams in than they do today. So we understand the biggest conferences. We also understand what the leverage is, and we'll just have to see how the negotiations shake out.
All right, Rick, let's go to Cleveland. Let's go to Cleveland in reference to the Browns, looking at their $2.4 billion stadium plan, getting a lot of opposition from the city there and reference to them moving. A lot of resistance, but can't Haslam solve this by kicking in, 75, 80% to move that stadium? And by the way, the new stadium they have, I thought they just built that like about 2 or 3 years ago. It seems like it's been a few years.
It's been there.
I know, but it's been there besides the old one. What kind of opposition can you see? And at what point, if asked, does the NFL ever step in for something like this?
Well, look, the problem with my life and the NFL is I was involved in that original stadium when Art Modell was on the tarmac and said, I'm going to Baltimore. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah. And if you remember, we all came up with the plan to package the new Cleveland Browns, save the records, save the logo, get the referendum passed, get the stadium done, award the Browns package to a new ownership group, the Lerner Group, and let Modell go to Baltimore. So, and thank you very much for the reference that you think it's 2 or 3 years old. It's 20 X years old.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's like I'm 25 years old, longer. And by the way, 20 of those stadiums were done during that whole period, you know, including State Farm, University of Phoenix, whatever you call it tomorrow. And that becomes a time where you got to renovate also. So, yeah, obviously.
3 minutes.
By paying for the stadium itself. But in a market like Cleveland, that's not the way it's done. And in New York and LA, you'll see that because the prices have a chance to make up for it. But not in a Cleveland, not in a Cincinnati, not in a Pittsburgh. And there will be an opportunity for substantial federal funding, public funding, whether it's $350 million for the city renovating the downtown stadium, which helps downtown, and that's what the Mayor Bibb says, or whether it's the state coming up with a lot of money to put that stadium in Brook Park, which is a suburban Cleveland site, which will help in a lot of ways, but not helping downtown. So we're a little bit of a way to getting it solved.
Well, this Saturday is going to be the 150th Preakness Stakes there at Pimlico Park Racecourse in Baltimore. Does this typically get the same amount as in reference to economic impact for that Baltimore area as much as Louisville did for the Kentucky Derby?
A little less. And then the interesting thing is, if the same horse every year wins the first two, you see a notable difference in the third leg because it's a Triple Crown potential leg. But, the Kentucky Derby over $100 million or so, and the Preakness not so much.
Are you buying when a trainer says, well, we're not going to take the horse there because it's better for his health? Are you buying that, or is that just a way to cop out because they don't want to go race in the Preakness?
It's like the Joel Embiid disease. You need a little bit of rest time. I can understand it. If you have 2 or 3 races off, and then you turn around and say, hey, Triple Crown is over. What the hell just happened?
Yeah.
So, I obviously there's a lot going on there. The horse needs to renegotiate his contract and get an appearance fee.
Hi, Mr. Charles Schwab. My Foot Locker stock, Dick Sporting Goods acquired it for $2.4 billion. Is my stock going to increase? Is there a name change? Give those stockholders a little a light at the end of the tunnel in reference to Foot Locker with this big purchase.
The stock will be okay. The apparel will be okay. Probably not a name change, but nobody asked me to be a consultant on that, so I'm not going to volunteer my opinion. And I think that you ought to continue to buy as many sneakers as you can because the price is going to go up.
Yeah, Dick Sporting Goods there. I go in there. It's like going into Costco. I mean, you can't come out of there like 25 different things, but those are some of the keys. And last but not least, no PGA for one Rick Horrow this week, huh? You ever go down to Charlotte, North Carolina?
Yeah.
Well, listen, I was in Toronto for Game 5, which was amazing as a Panther fan, not so much as a Maple Leaf fan. And then I'm going to Game 6 down here. So I didn't want to stop there because I just got back from Iceland, and, Iceland's kind of cold, so I'm warming up a little bit. And until 7 minutes ago, I was excited watching the flow of the tournament here. Then I got interrupted by some guys that wanted to talk sports. So other than that, I'm doing fine.
What was in Iceland? And did you get the same icy reception that the VP might have got there?
You're trying to buy the country? You're trying to buy the country?
Yeah, no. This is different. I was just trying to lease the country, not buy the country. This is a bit different. I was so now listen. All the producers need to rack this thing up and get it to the IRS. So the real answer was I was working hard to find expansion site targets for an NFL stadium. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Or you could say that I was skiing, tobogganing, taking advantage of Iceland, which is, by the way, an absolutely beautiful country in case anybody wants to go.
I think that's tax code 1450-19920. That's on page 225. I think we got you covered there, buddy.
Man, you are as good. I think I've had some profound rub off on you because you would have never had the ability to be that obnoxious before, and now you're right there.
He's right there. There's
Thank
no
you
question.
so much. I appreciate the professor teaching us as you do every week.
Thank you, Rick.
Right. All right, man. Later.
There you go. That's Rick Horrow, everybody, sports professor. He's presented by Chill Boys because wearing bad underwear is like going up to bat with a broken bat. No support, no confidence, and you're getting sent back to the dugout. Chill Boys boxers are the real MVP. They're soft, cool, and clutch when it counts. Step in to the batter's box at chillboys.com and use code ESPN and knock 20% off your first order. Once again, it's Chill Boys. Comfort that goes yard. All right, everybody, coming up, the DiMaggio streak begins. Nolan Ryan's first no-no and a wild 18-inning shutout. Plus, the NFL schedule has dropped. We'll dive into that as well. It is Rockin' Minutes with Jimmy B. We are hanging out today.